Should you read the Watchmen comics? Okay, so I personally think yes. I know a lot of people are thinking like, oh, I watched the movie and now I want to read the book, but the book's so long. Is it worth my time or is it? I'll give you the answer here. Yes. Mostly because it's kind of different from the movie. I mean, some of you might be coming from like you haven't watched the movie or the comic book yet. But even though how thick the comic is, you shouldn't be threatened by that. It's a pretty decent book. It was even in the top 100 in Time magazines for best novels. It was in that list. The originality, the colorful characters, it's just perfect. Like, you can't really compare comic books with this. Because, like, the characters are so different. It's not like your average, like, DC or Marvel comic. It's scary, but fun scary. Like, you never know what's going to happen when you turn the page. Alan Moore went for a realistic approach. Like, nothing was guaranteed in this comic. It always kept you guessing. And that was so great about it. It was such a weird comic, too. It wasn't like anything we've seen before. It was so different. I can't gossip about this enough. Even if I made like an entire video like for an hour, there's like so much stuff that in this one comic that you could talk about. You could literally write a whole concept about like one page. That's how like in-depth this comic is. And that's probably led to success. Let me tell you the premise real fast. The premise was that the nuclear scare was around and there's these superheroes though, but there's realistic superheroes. There's only two superheroes that had superhuman abilities: Dr. Manhattan and Ozymandias. Let's first talk about Dr. Manhattan. Dr. Manhattan was this man that got transformed into this magical creature. Basically, he could change atoms however he sees fit. And it leads to everyone being scared of him because he could change anything. He could like destroy the world if he wanted to in just a blink of an eye. So he's in the US, so he's kind of like a power for the US. I'm not going to explain how he turned to Dr. Manhattan, just in case. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, if that makes sense. And Ozymandias is this really smart guy. He's the smartest man in the world. It's what it said in the comics. And he had superhuman abilities, like Captain America superhuman abilities. Now I bet you're wondering, why is the US even scared if they have someone like Dr. Manhattan? Now, Dr. Manhattan has been working with the US, but it seemed like the only reason was his relationship with Jupiter. And that seems to be like his only like bit of emotion, because he doesn't have too much emotion. That was the biggest problem. So we don't know what he would have done if the nukes did go off. Maybe he would just leave. He was like very neutral on things. He was very confusing. And there's this, if you like mystery, you're like this side plot. It's about the death of comedian. That's one of the superheroes that dies and is thrown off his own apartment building. He dies and a guy named Rorschach starts exploring around trying to figure out who this mass killer is. He thinks it's a mass killer. Like, he thinks someone's going after the costumed heroes. Now, should you read this comic book? Absolutely. After all this, I think this is a pretty easy choice. Like, if you haven't read any comic books and if you're kind of curious, I would read this one. If you just want to read one comic book in your life, I would choose this one. I mean, I know I have comics that I like more, but you would have to read like other comic books to like get it. But you just have to read this one comic and you would be like in on comics. Like, I promise you. This is the best channel, but maybe keep it on the low key. And remember, you can always trust me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.